This is a Mamiya C330 and it's what's known as a twin lens reflex camera, and it's a medium format camera. In other words, it uses film which is slightly larger than quite a bit larger than 35mm. It's actually 6 centimeters wide, and depending on the type of medium format camera, you'll end up with negatives that are either 6x6 or 6x4.5 centimeters. This particular camera does 6x6. The other two sorts of camera that you might encounter which are medium format are the SLR. Best known versions of that would be the Bronica or the Hasselblad. The other version would be the direct view or the rangefinder type, and that would be the Mamiya 7. And then there's this, which is the classic twin lens reflex. Now this is quite a sophisticated one. Unlike most TLRs, it allows close-up photography, and that's one of the main advantages of this particular camera. But all of the cameras I've just mentioned all use 120 film, and as I say, it's 6 centimeters wide, and depending on the sort of camera you're using, your negatives will vary in size. So we're just going to be looking at how to load film into this, because it's slightly different than 35mm. This particular camera opens by sliding this security lock to the side and pressing this button, which allows the back to pop open. Other older versions have a slightly different technique. There's a little button on the back that slides to the right, and I think there's another iteration of that as well. Assuming you've just used a roll of film, this is what the camera will look like when you open the back, and the film that was on the film that was originally used will have left the spool. The first job is to transfer this empty spool into the take-up position, and it's quite straightforward. You pull this little locking device out of the way, you press the spool like that, it comes up, you drop it into the new position, lock it into place, and everything's ready for action. Then you take the film that you're going to use, and in this case it's a dud roll that we're using just for demonstration purposes. Normally when you're going to handle film like this, it will be in a foil wrap, airtight. You rip it open and you're dealing with the roll of film, which then has a little paper tag on it. Remove the paper tag entirely, don't be leaving any remnants behind, and then place the film into the position that you've emptied. Lock it in place. So now the film is ready to be transported across to the take-up spool, and we just find the slot, and there's a slot here which you slide the tab into. Then you start to wind. You'll often need to give it a bit of assistance, otherwise if you don't help it along, it can come undone. And we're just going to keep winding here until an arrow appears. And when the arrow appears, we line it up with these two markers. And when we've lined it up with the two markers, that's when you stop. If you go any further, you're going to be exposing the film, and the roll will be no good. So at this point, you close the back. Make sure it's securely tightened, and then you keep rolling. And as you roll, eventually the camera will force you to stop, and that's it. You're ready for your first exposure. There are 12 exposures on a roll of this film if you're using a 6x6, so you've got 12 photographs to take. At the end of that, you will be able to wind it on freely until the roll is totally transferred to that take-up spool. You remove it, you switch the positions of the spools again, and you're ready to load a new roll of film.